Good morning, Meredith. How are you?
Good, Councilman. How are you?
Fine.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's 11 o'clock. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Calling the roll for the Monday, January 30th, 2023 Board of Control meeting. It is 11:01 a.m. We have Councilwoman Meredith Turner,
Here.
Councilman Dale Miller,
Here.
James Boyle serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones Jr.,
Present.
Nicole English serving as an alternate for Mike Dever. Here. Michael Chambers serving as an alternate for Chris Ronay, County Executive.
Here.
We have Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for Mike Chambers, Fiscal Officer.
Here.
Paul Porter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, next on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from January 23rd. I will make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lee Tucker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. The minutes are approved. Any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, let's do our first item.
First item is BC 2023-50, Department of Public Works submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Home Depot USA Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $49,500 for routine equipment and material purchases for the period January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023 for various divisions. For the Facilities Division in the amount not to exceed $19,250. Road and Bridge Division in the amount not to exceed $2,000. Road and Bridge Fleet Division in the amount not to exceed $2,500. Sanitary Division in the amount not to exceed $21,750. Animal Shelter in the amount not to exceed $4,000. And submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, everyone. Tom Pavich, Department of Public Works. This is the requesting approval of the purchase order. We do this every year with Home Depot. It's a not to exceed dollar amount, $49,500. It gives all of our different business units access to a big box retail store. The intent is to give them that option for emergency purchases. It could be as needed, immediate need purchases. Home Depot being one of the more closer big box retail stores versus the other ones with its location, central location at Steel Yard down in Cleveland. And then we have one on West 117th, which is very heavy on the commercial equipment. We do this every year, and it crosses over our 5 different divisions.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Are there questions from the board? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2023-51, Department of Public Works recommending an award on RQ 10735 and enter into a purchase order with Crane and Machinery Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $214,663 for one new, never titled Manatech A62 bucket truck.
Good morning again, Tom Pavich, Public Works. This is approval of a purchase order with Crane and Machinery. This is for a new bucket truck for our Road and Bridge Division. It was a formal bid, went to, I believe, 19 vendors. We had 2 bids submitted, and this is the award to the low bidder that was compliant.
Thank you, Tom. Questions from the board? Councilman, please.
Who was the other bidder and how much did they bid?
Their bid, it was Valley Ford. Their bid was $238,664.
Competition saves us almost 20,
That's correct.
24,000. So
That's correct.
That's
When are
good
we
when
gonna-
we can get multiple bids.
When are we gonna get it?
I think 6 to 9 months. It's a unique vehicle. The bucket truck, it's similar to like a Cox Cable or a utility truck. Obviously, the chassis, I believe, is a Ford, so they're a little bit behind on equipment. So, but once the build out, you're looking at 6 to 9 months.
What do we do? Do we have an old one that we're phasing out?
No, this is a new one. So our trades have an older one that they're going to keep. Our Road and Bridge Division, this is going to be just for them so they can continue their bridge inspections.
They rent it right now if they need it.
United Rentals or something?
Any final questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is the price fixed as opposed to they're gonna come back later 6 months from now and say this and that went up and it's gonna be more money?
So this is a difficult question to answer. So there's always that risk, especially when it's coming to vehicles. A lot of this is driven by the manufacturers. Crane and Machinery, just as Valley Ford is, they're just the middle person. They forecast that price. They say, this is our price today. You will get the awarded purchase order. We give it to them. They place the order with Ford. Ford could come back in 6 months and the price goes up. So I'd like to think that this is going to be the final price, but, with other vehicles, you know, it's very difficult to make that guarantee.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Turner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved.
everyone.
Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2023-52, Department of Public Works submitting an amendment to a contract with CRS Metal Works Incorporated for Soldiers and Sailors Monument HVAC alterations to change the scope of services effective upon signatures of all parties and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $55,617.19.
Good morning, Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. This is an amendment to a construction contract that is currently in progress at the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Specifically, the need for this amendment is for a change in site conditions that we need to accommodate. Specifically, when we were going to install the new electrical service to the monument from Superior Avenue on the north to the monument, there were existing sets of conduits that were available during design, and they were not the size as we found them that was designed by the Osborne Engineering Design Team. So we have to open up and install new conduit size to make this 200 amp electrical service so that we can fully operate the new boiler that's already installed and operating to a certain capacity until this electrical modification is done. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Are there questions? Councilman? No? Okay, seeing no questions, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2023-53, Department of Public Works submitting an amendment to a contract with Train US Incorporated to refurbish the existing chillers from the HVAC system at the Jane Edna Hunter Building for the period December 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2022, to extend the time period to May 31st, 2023, to expand the scope of services effective upon signatures of all parties, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $69,000.
Good morning, Matt Reimer again for the Department of Public Works. This is also an amendment to an existing construction or an in-progress construction project to renovate the two main building chillers at the Jane Edna Hunter Building for the Department of Health and Human Services. These scopes, we've already completed the renovation of chiller number 1, and so this picks up 3 items that we had to perform once we tore down that chiller and had to see the actual conditions on the inside. So that's $21,000 for additional rebuild, $8,500 for descaling of the condensers tubes so that we could get proper flow through the chiller, and then additional welding of fittings that were deteriorated on chiller number 1 also. We're also extending the contract duration to May 31st of this year because of the associated time it took to do those additional tasks, and we're adding a contingency amount for chiller number 2, which is currently torn down and in progress, since we anticipate similar conditions in that chiller. Happy to answer your questions.
Thank you again, Matt. Questions from the board? Mr. Boyle, please.
Were these not anticipated at the outset of this project?
So this was a $234,000 or $234,500 contract originally. Then you tear out the chillers and you saw some conditions that we didn't expect to find. Does that help, James?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I guess what I was looking at, how old are the chillers?
Oh, I'll get back to you on the specific, but we're talking over 20 years old.
Yeah, so, I mean,
sure,
what I was
yeah.
getting at was,
Yeah.
were these unforeseen issues that cropped up after the contract had started?
Yes,
Got it.
as we opened up the equipment.
All right,
Yep.
that's fine.
Any final questions on the item? Seeing none, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Turner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2023-54, Department of Public Works submitting an RFP exemption which will result in a revenue-generating agreement with the Cleveland Police Historical Society in the amount not to exceed $10 to lease 4,000 square feet of space in the City of Cleveland Police Department Headquarters Building located at 1300 Ontario Street, Cleveland, for the Cleveland Police Museum for the period January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2025, and submitting a revenue-generating agreement with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee. John Myers on behalf of Public Works. This is a pretty straightforward de minimis opportunity we're extending to the Cleveland Police Historical Society to accommodate them in their current position to be able to continue as they continue to look for a new and permanent home for this museum.
Okay, John, thank you. Are there questions from the board? Mr. Boyle, please.
I mean, there's been a lot of, is Cleveland staying there, CPD?
No, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Boyle, as you've read in the papers, is all we officially know. They have extended their lease for the next year for the Cleveland Police, the entire, most of the building. This is just a couple thousand square feet that is in the lobby that so it's not space we're intending on using. And, but the police headquarters itself, they've evidently purchased the building, the arts building at the Inner Belt there to redo into a new police headquarters.
And presumably the historical.
That could be one of their options of doing it. It could be that by finally choosing a new site that this opens up other city properties for them to go to. But they're sort of at the mercy of the city, and so we're trying to accommodate them while that gets resolved.
I'm always hesitant because this is one of our good leases. We gripe about some of the other stuff. This is one we're happy to be involved in from the county side, so I don't want to give them a hard time. But I just, more than anything else, was looking at what the long-term expectation of not just CPD, but this building, because it's part of obviously the entire complex. All right.
Yes, and those are part of larger discussions that aren't real clear answers, as you know, at the moment, so.
And sensitive, to say the least.
Yes,
Fair enough.
I would concur with that word.
Okay, thank you. Are any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank
Next
you.
item, please. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2023-55, Department of Public Works recommend an award and enter into an agreement with Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District and the amount not to exceed $14,500 for technical assistance with various activities in connection with the implementation of soil and water conservation measures for the period March 27, 2023 to March 26, 2024. For stormwater pollution activities associated with the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System construction activities, and the amount not to exceed $8,500. For public improvement and public education program activities, and the amount not to exceed $6,000.
Nicole English with Public Works. So this is an agreement that we've been doing for as long as I can remember with soil and water. They provide technical assistance. Partially, the public involvement piece is our requirement of our EPA permits that we have on our buildings. And then the other piece is a requirement we have on our federal aid projects in order to manage the stormwater pollution that's happening during construction activities. So they go out and monitor all of our construction projects. They write us monthly reports and just make sure that we're conforming to the regulations that we need to on site. So the past several years, it's been $14,000. They raised it by $500. Still a way better deal than we would get if we hired a consultant outside, a private consultant. So asking for your approval.
Let's not tell them that. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2023-56, Department of Information Technology, on behalf of the Court of Common Pleas, recommend an award on purchase order to Ohio State University, DBA Ornet, and the amount not to exceed $65,793.65 for upgrades, support, and maintenance on VMware software subscriptions for the period February 13, 2023 to February 12, 2024.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. So I had one correction. This is for the Department of IT and the Court of Common Pleas. So I wanted to make that distinction initially. But this is to renew the VMware software subscriptions for the county. This is for server virtualization, so we can maximize the space as currently sitting on actual physical servers. So it was split out this year for the courts and IT proper, and then also HHS's IT. So you see the next one is correlating with this as well. And this is a government-to-government purchase with Ohio State University via OrNet.
Thank you, Janelle. Are there questions from the board? Mr. Boyle.
Yes,
Oh.
excuse me. Yes, we missed that part.
Seeing no further questions, then I will make a motion to approve this item as amended, putting in the word and getting rid of in behalf. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Turner. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved as amended. Next item.
Next item, BC 2023-57, Department of Information Technology, on behalf of Health and Human Services, recommended an award on a purchase order to Ohio State University DBA OrNet in the amount not to exceed $12,187.50 for upgrades, support, and maintenance on vSAN 7 and VMware software subscriptions for the period February 13, 2023 to February 12, 2024.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. Again, this is for the maintenance on the VMware environment that we have, and again, specifically for HHS. This is a purchase from the Ohio State University as a government-to-government purchase.
Okay, are there any questions on this item?
Is this funding source correct?
It is HHS levy. They have a specific accounting unit that is for IT purchases, so that is coming out of that fund. So the naming of it probably could be cleaned up a little bit, but it is HHS levy with their specific accounting unit for IT purchases.
Okay, we'll make a change on that. Any additional questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item as amended for the funding source as HHS levy. We won't put in the. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Turner. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2023-58, Office of the Medical Examiner submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in award recommendation to Thermo Electron North America LLC and the amount not to exceed $20,640 for replacement of a turbo pump on a Q Thermo Vanquish Flex mass spectrometer and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. This is an emergency repair. This is a pretty sophisticated spectrometer that we've got working in toxicology. It handles the majority of the load on our fentanyl cases. When it went down, we have to transfer them to other machines and kind of breaks it up, slows things down. So we really needed to get this done. I appreciate all the work that Paul and Cheryl did to help us get this on the agenda today.
Okay, Hugh, thank you. Are there any questions on the item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Turner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item's approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2023-59, Public Defender's Office submitting a memorandum of understanding via contract with the Lakewood Municipal Court to outline the roles and responsibilities of the Public Defender's Office in the amount not to exceed $225,014.40 to provide a full-time assistant public defender for representation of indigent criminal defendants in the Lakewood Municipal Court in connection with Ohio Court Backlog Reduction Program, effective upon approval by the Board of Control to April 30th, 2024.
Thank you. Colin Sweeney with the Public Defender's Office. This is an agreement with the City of Lakewood. They obtained a grant through the Ohio Supreme Court's ARPA funds to do a number of things in their court, but one of them is to add a full-time public defender there for roughly the next 16 months to represent indigent clients. So it is a revenue-generating agreement not to exceed $225,000 that's set to go through April of 2024. And I think, having spoken with the judge, the hope is that eventually we would work out a contractual agreement with them similar that we have to the city of Cleveland to provide that representation on an ongoing basis.
All right, Colin, thank you. Are there questions from the board?
So, just to say that I approve of your support of these much needed services in my district, and I move approval.
It's been moved. Is there a sec? Yeah,
If I may,
well,
may I
please.
I support, I'm with Councilman Miller, but if I may ask a couple.
Sure.
So, are there other, Lakewood is one of the larger single jurisdiction courts, but some of the other courts have larger populations. Are they gonna look for similar grants, do you know?
I don't know. I will say that we have had conversations with Judge Gallagher in the city of Euclid and Judge Walton Keller in Shaker Heights, just preliminary discussions about the possibility of having someone placed there from our office. I don't believe they've sought a grant as of yet, but it is something we've talked about, the possibility of having similar type contracts, because again, the city of Lakewood, if we went to a contract, or Shaker Heights or Euclid, would be able to get reimbursement just like the county does.
Right.
And so the idea is, what's nice is that rather than Judge Neff having to track someone down for every arraignment and every proceeding, we have somebody that's going to be there full time.
And I think Cleveland uses legal aid, do they not? Is that, who do they, or do they use you guys?
They use us,
Okay.
yes, also.
And so will that be a similar relationship as to what Lakewood will be using?
Yes, exactly. So we will have one, it's, obviously it's just a single jurisdiction court. So, but we will have a public defender and a support staff person there for every proceeding, similar to City of Cleveland.
I think Parma Muni Court, they have, I don't know if are they public defenders? I know they've got some lawyers there. They
Yeah.
may come through like the Parma Bar Association, but I'm surprised that they haven't reached out on this as well.
Yeah, they have they do contract with an attorney. It's not someone with the public defender's office, but similar concept.
I'm cautiously optimistic that this situation will broaden over time.
We are too. Thank you.
And I join Councilman Miller, I think you already said.
You're going to second it, sir?
I
Okay.
would love to say.
It's been motioned by Councilman Miller, seconded by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item's approved.
Thank you.
Yep. Next
Next.
item. Yep.
Next item, BC 2023-60, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, submitting an RFP exemption will result in a payment to Towards Employment Incorporated in the total amount not to exceed $8,974.11 for reconciliation of invoices in connection with the Cuyahoga County Fatherhood Initiative for the Network for Success Fatherhood Program between June 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2020, and recommending a payment in connection with said RFP exemption to Towards Employment Incorporated.
Good morning, Marcos Cortez with Health and Human Services on behalf of Jobs and Family Services. Again, we are asking to pay outstanding invoice to Towards Employment for services rendered under the Fatherhood Initiative. These invoices go back to June and July of 2020. The vendor did submit these invoices on time in 2020. Unfortunately, this was during the height of COVID and staff starting to work from home, so unfortunately those invoices were missed. Towards Employment was conducting a routine internal audit last year and found that these invoices had not been reimbursed. They contacted the Office of Fatherhood, who verified that these invoices were not paid. Since we are over 2 years beyond the contract period, we felt that the purchase order was the best mechanism to pay these invoices.
Okay, Marcos, thank you. Questions from the board? Councilman? No?
Approval.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Turner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Moving on to exemptions.
First item, BC 2023-61, Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Homeless Services, requesting approval of an exemption from aggregation of contracts on RQ 10456 with various providers and the total amount of $6,946,477 for various services in connection with the Cuyahoga County Homeless Consortium of Care Program for various time periods. Exemption from aggregation of contracts, County Code 501.05C, Cuyahoga County Board of Control, Contracting and Purchasing Ordinance Number 0-2012-0015, Section 3.5B. For the period September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2023. Fairhill Partners in the amount of $22,500 for emergency shelter and supportive services for seniors. Family Promise in the amount of $68,800 for emergency shelter services for families. Mental Health Services for Homeless Persons, DBA Frontline Service for Cleveland Mediation Center's Prevention Services in the amount of $34,053. For Diversion Prevention in the amount of $132,721. Westside Catholic Center for Emergency Shelter Services for Families in the amount of $63,730. YMCA of Greater Cleveland for operations of Y Haven for emergency shelter services for single men in the amount of $33,309. For the period January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023, Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries in the amount of $2,231,638. Mental Health Services for Homeless Persons, DBA Frontline Service for North Point's Transitional Housing Service for Young Adults in the amount of $1,422,933. For Coordinated Intake Centralized Shelter Prevention Services in the amount of $400,000. YMCA of Greater Cleveland for operation of emergency shelter for women in the amount of $2,536,793. And we do have a funding source change, 95% Health and Human Services Levy Fund and 5% Emergency Solutions Grant.
Good morning again, Marcos Cortez with Health and Human Services on behalf of the Office of Homeless Services. The Office of Homeless Services issued an RFP in August of 2015, which closed on September 13th, 2022. 15 vendors submitted 21 proposals and 20 were reviewed. The Office of Homeless Services is recommending 10 proposals for approval. This is for the continuum of care, which funds low-barrier, client-centered emergency shelters for men and women, families and youth. The coordinated entry serves as a front door to the continuum of care. We are asking an exemption from aggregation to allow the contracts to go to the Board of Control and County Council by individual contract dollar threshold rather than the RFP value. This will avoid unnecessary delays for providers and unnecessary delays for providers offering critical homeless continuum of care services.
Okay, Marcos, thank you. Are there questions from the board?
Yes, I have one.
Please.
And my question is why the funding source is being changed from general fund / rescue plan act to the combination where 95% is HHS levy and 5% is emergency solutions grant.
That was the original submission. I think it was just accidentally added to.
It was an oversight on my part. They had it correct on their briefing memo, but they had two items that were similar, so I accidentally put on both of the items.
Okay, fine.
Okay, are there any additional questions on the item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve as amended for the funding source, 95% HHS, 5% emergency solutions, as noted. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2023-62, Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Homeless Services, requesting approval of an exemption from aggregation of contracts on RQ 8737 with various providers in the total amount of $10,001,999.96 for alternative housing and related services and support for COVID recovery for the Continuum of Care program for the period January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. Exemption from aggregation of contracts, County Code 501.05C, Cuyahoga County Board of Control, Contracting and Purchasing Ordinance Number 2012-0015, Section 3.5B. Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry for Youth Drop-In Services in the amount of $247,113. Eden Incorporated for diversion services in the amount of $2,654,343. For building rehabilitation in the amount of $3,800,000. The Haven Home for Building Rehabilitation and System Repair in the amount of $110,930. Joseph's Home for Homeless Prevention Strategies in the amount of $605,000. Stella Maris Incorporated for Building Rehabilitation and Repair in the amount of $176,068.96. YMCA of Greater Cleveland for Building Rehabilitation and Repair in the amount of $627,786. For Shelter and Treatment Services in the amount of $313,922. YMCA of Greater Cleveland for Rental Assistance and Supportive Services in the amount of $500,000. For the A Place for Me initiative to prevent youth homelessness in the amount of $202,000. Mental Health Services for Homeless Persons, DBA Frontline Service for Eviction Prevention Services in the amount of $314,837. CHN Housing Partners for a construction project in the amount of $450,000.
Good morning again. Marcos Cortez with Health and Human Services on behalf of the Office of Homeless Services. The Office of Homeless Services is partnering with various vendors on solutions to address homelessness and housing insecurity in Cuyahoga County related to COVID-19 and to address any future emergency issues. These services offer innovative solutions that increase and or improve shelters, alternate housing, and various homeless prevention strategies for Cuyahoga County residents. These physical and system enhancement provide some level of supportive services that residents are able to plan for permanent housing following the removal of their barriers. These solutions include redesigns or rehabbed emergency shelters, medical respite, bridge housing, short-term rental assistance, and other programs to deconcentrate the shelters. My office and the Office of Homeless Services issued an RFP for COVID housing solutions in January of 2022, which closed February of 2022. We received 27 proposals, 27 were reviewed. The Office of Homeless Services is recommending 9 vendors representing 16 proposals for approval. Again, we are asking for an exemption from the aggregation to allow contracts to go to the Board of Control and counsel by individual contract dollar threshold rather than the total RFP. Again, this will avoid any unnecessary delays to our providers and the services being offered to our residents.
Thank you, Marcos. Questions from the board? Seeing no questions.
Oh, I'm sorry, I believe there is a correction. The documents we submitted was for 9/1/2022, not 1/1/23.
Does this one have to go back to 9/1?
That was the
I think the
recommendation.
original was 1/1, but there's an ask to go back to 9/1, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll make the change, we'll amend it. With that being said, are there any other questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve as amended, beginning 9/1/2023. Is there a second?
2022.
I'm sorry, 22. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Turner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next, moving on, correct? Consent?
Consent agenda items are BC 2023-63 through BC 2023-65.
Okay, board members, if you have any questions, let me know.
I will make a motion.
We have a motion to approve.
The consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Turner. All in favor to approve today's consent agenda items as listed, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Do we have other business?
There is no other business.
Do we have any other public comment?
No public comment?
Then I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Lee Tucker. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.